I obviously very much wanted to create a piece of work that was relatable to the young people of the company, and obviously wanted it to have clear relevance to the journey that they've been on the 12 months, and felt that I couldn't ignore that. That had to be the driving force of the work. And when we started talking about what had that 12 months meant to them, what had been their journey, that obviously was driven by a lot of negative emotion and a lot of negative impact in regards to their sense of isolation, their sense of feeling restricted, feeling conformed, spending 12 months following instructions, following guidelines. And that's where the dialogue had started for the piece of work. But where that dialogue was going to go at the beginning of the journey this year, we didn't really know, and it didn't actually start until just after the first lockdown was the first time that this company was able to actually come together in a studio. They hadn't seen each other, they hadn't been able to work with each other, not sure what physical or mental impact that lockdown would have had. We took a session where the dancers were provided a space to improvise and respond to music. And at that point, we felt that that was going to be a beautiful opportunity for them just to find their bodies again and feel safe and feel connected with that many dancers around them. And actually, what happened was something that we didn't expect. And it was this stunning moment where 13 young people were exhilarated and moved and felt freedom and almost a primal response to music being played at them and music pounding on their bodies, and being able to not with any sense of instruction, not with any sense of choreography, just provided this space to move and to dance and to feel energy of somebody else and to sweat and to feel excited. And that's where Euphoria began.
You need to have physical contact. It's like a part of life, you need it.
We had 2-3 sessions together, and then all of a sudden we were straight back in lockdown again.
As soon as they got back into studio, it was about, okay, how can we make you as a company, and they really have bonded. Seeing it in studio space with everyone just dancing together, you see that different emotions, and you see the roller coaster effect.
Yeah, definitely.
It allows them to scream through their movement, to cry through their movement, for them to feel excitement and highs. And I think that's what we've so missed over that 12 months is, what does it feel like to feel high and energized and excited, but more importantly, in order to share that with each other and to be in that intimate space with each other where we're all feeling that excitement, we're all bouncing off each other's energy.
Everything that we've wanted and longed for is everything that we now get to experience, and obviously through dance as well, it just makes it even better.
The whole piece is the journey to get to that kind of peak, which is kind of related back to how the world's kind of gone, which is like this kind of constantly wanting to get to that like normality and this euphoria feeling.
At the start it's so isolated, and it's like you can relate to it a lot.
Without there being a physical wall between all of us, having to pretend that we cannot physically come near each other or touch, that's what brings the frustration out in the first half of the dance.
You have to feel all of the emotions like anger and frustration and isolation in order to feel euphoria at its fullest.
The impact of TikTok over the last 12 months had really fascinated me. And it was really interesting in the work to not only provide suggestions of the positive contribution TikTok's had in creating a sense of dance and music community whilst isolated and confined, but I'd also been really interested in how this could highlight the imagery of conformity with bodies following and restricted by such codified movement to music, and would then in contrast really highlight that sense of expressionism and freedom of the body in the euphoric section that follows.
In section B, I think that's when like the adrenaline really kicks in, and like I can properly like feel that within myself. Learning all the roots of like the serotonin and the highs and the lows of how you can feel, getting to feel and know what that serotonin is and where you find it in the piece, and connecting that to where you would find it in a naturalistic way, like when you see friends or when you go to concerts and things like that.
From an audience perspective, it's that kind of like seeing us all apart and seeing each person in their different sections, and then kind of the joy and like excitement from when we all just come back into space and then just have like this euphoric moment.
It was this very honest feeling that these 13 young people brought to a studio space that really moved me, that's what music does, that it brought them together. It was like a community connecting with each other. That's where Euphoria started, was actually I want to take the idea of what has music been to us during this time and what actually is it to us, whether this last 12 months hasn't occurred. I connected at that point with a composer, Ni Singh. We talked about a sense of, first of all, narrative of how to take what the young people had talked about in their creative inquiry about their honest feelings of what their 12 months has done, to provide a context in order to allow music to provide them that freedom, that sense of expression, that euphoric exhilaration.
The interesting thing for this was that actually it wasn't about me making a narrative with lyric, which is quite a strength of mine, but it was absolutely about thinking about movement and kind of that narrative through music, which meant that kind of choreographers and dancers and Katy and co could take it and work with it. And that's why I got involved. It's really exciting for me because I hadn't really kind of worked that way before.
So working with Ni, we very much drew on kind of a background from myself, to be honest, and that was kind of very much 90s music, the big beat kind of 90s era, very much capturing character of where the company's based from and the character of Wolverhampton, which is very much characterised on its indie and its rock, but also drawing on the culture of Wolverhampton. And Ni, we worked together very closely to make sure that those beautiful cultural references drove through the work as well.
And so we just got to a point where we were happy with certain elements, and then it had to just flow through it really, and that's the challenge.
It starts with these little dumps, and then as it builds, it's that chemical reaction, that euphoria, it kind of does that in your body. You feel that it starts to hit you.
You can't help but get hyped up where the music hype ups and feel a bit more somber when it slows down.
We got a chance during one of our sessions to speak to Ni. When he sat and broke down to us the small sounds and the rhythms and the overlays and the layers and how that all came together, it helped us understand the music.
Music has become the driving force for them to express themselves on stage and express themselves through movement and start connecting with each other. And I think that's what's been the most beautiful thing, and they've taken that journey with the work.
Coming in today was brilliant. Hearing the music was one thing, and then to see the energy of that dance company just working through, and there are rises and falls, and I do feel a sense of guilt for having to make them work that hard, because it is ridiculously hard what they're doing. I mean, it's a 20-minute piece which is absolutely taxing. Physically, it must be draining. I'm so impressed with what they're doing, because I think what they're doing is making an epic piece of music, and I wanted epic out of this. They've made it greater. They've made it so epic, it's brilliant. And I think it stands on its own as a performance. And I'm thinking it's going to stand for a while, actually. It's about a certain era that we went through, and they've interpreted it. I can see the interpretation in the certain sections, and they've really thought about their movement and how they reacted to the sounds. And because I knew what I was kind of writing and how I wanted to feel. There are things in there about which remind me of kind of like lifeboats. There are things remind me of rave moments of totally standing on top of a hill in Glastonbury and just whooping. And there are things which are about just having that dark angst, and they've brought it all to life. Top job.
For myself, and I know for numerous people, that kind of connection through music and that therapy of music is what removes our vulnerabilities. It strips down those inhibitions and allows us to just be driven or to be hit or to kind of, flow against that music. And that's what Euphoria is.